Audio made possible by www.jackettomee.com. Audio Fanfiction Productions presents Wide Awake. Fanfiction written by Angscada003. Fanfiction inspired by the Twilight Saga written by Stephanie Meyer. Chapter 14. Victorious Vanilla Vixens.
Edward's point of view. After Jez successfully dislodged the ladyfinger from his esophagus, he gaped at me, fucking gaped. This is exactly why I didn't tell him a fucking thing. And because I knew Jez so well, I knew he wouldn't say shit to Brandon about it, but I couldn't sit there and be fucking gaped at, so I stood up. Brandon didn't notice anything going on around her. She was too nervous to even focus on breathing right, so I walked out. I walked out and left Jez there, and prayed that Brandon would distract him long enough for me to prepare myself for the fucked up conversation we were going to have. I debated with myself in bio if I should tell Bella what was going on. I didn't see any reason why I should or shouldn't, and when the bell rang I still hadn't come to any conclusion, so I just let her walk out. I figured I could relay the whole fucked up story to her tonight when we were alone. But because Jez knew my last class, he was standing there beside the door, fucking waiting for me, and the look of pure curiosity on his face when he saw me walking towards him was really unacceptable. It made me uncomfortable. I could feel him scrutinizing me, and I didn't fucking like it. I walked up to him, keeping my same bored mask I always used in this fucking dump. Jez quirked an eyebrow. "I think we need to ditch today," he said simply. Like he wasn't giving me an option. I almost snorted at him. Standing there in another pair of holey jeans and another grubby band shirt, acting like I fucking owed him something. But I knew better. If it were Jez, he'd fucking tell me, and that thought made me feel kind of shitty. I was being a shitty friend. And I'd have to get the conversation over with eventually. Better sooner than later. So I nodded and started towards the parking lot, while he followed, sprinting to keep up with me. Once we made it to the car and were both inside, the silence was heavy and thick, and I wasn't going to be the first one to fucking break it. So I put my key in the ignition and drove towards home. I could feel his eyes on me the whole way, boring holes into my head. But he didn't say anything. I don't know what the fuck he was waiting for. It's not like I was Brandon or some shit. But he just kept his mouth shut the whole way to my house. I pulled in and got out, really fucking ready to just be in that house, and wishing it was done already, and my girl was waiting for me on that couch. He followed me into the house without a word. Never saying a thing, just fucking staring still. No one was home, so I went to the living room and flopped heavily onto the couch. Jasper just stood there in front of me, never sitting down. "Okay," Jez started slowly, narrowing his eyes at me. "What the fuck are you doing with the crazy girl?" he asked. And that shit pissed me off for the final time. She's not fucking crazy, I growled through clenched teeth, glowering at him. "Her name is Bella," I snapped, glad that I could finally tell him that since I had been waiting to since day one. His eyes grew wide, and he looked stunned. To think that I would defend Bella Swan. After the initial shock from that comment wore off, he slid into the chair he was closest to. "Okay. Not crazy. I get it," he said, looking rather fucking apologetic. "Jez knows me well enough to know that I rarely defend people. So, what's going on with you and Bella?" He emphasized her name, like he deserved a gold fucking star, or some shit. I huffed, and it was probably a little fucking childish to do so, but I huffed nonetheless. Because this was one long fucking story, and there was no way out of it. "Remember that shitty party you skipped?" I asked, defeated. Jez furrowed his brows and nodded, so I continued. "Well, she came with Brandon." He looked surprised to hear this, of course. But Newton was fucking with her, so she ran upstairs to hide from him, and she just so fucking happened to choose my room to run into. He pursed his lips, thoughtful. Then nodded for me to continue. I let out a deep breath and sank into the couch. Then I told him everything. I told him about the first meeting, about her not sleeping, about my not sleeping. I left out the parts private for Bella. I wouldn't fuck my girl over like that. Her story is hers to tell. Jez understood. I told him about the gazebo, and the fucking delicious cookies she'd bring me. I'd tell him how we'd talk, because we were both so fucked up and just clicked. I told him about my cold, and about how my girl took care of me, and I told him about Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving night. Wait. He held his hand up after I got to the part about her touching me. So, she can touch you, but no one else? He asked, incredulous. I let out a frustrated sigh. Yes, okay. Now shut the fuck up. Save your questions for the end. I snapped. He was going to read too fucking much into this as it was. I could already see it on his face. So I told him about how we slept together all night. And yes, of course, his jaw hit the fucking floor, because he was getting it all wrong. But I just kept going. I told him about how we kept doing it. The dinners. The holding. I left out some things. The humming, for instance. No fucking way would he let me live that shit down. I left out the pajamas, and tried with everything in me to make it seem a whole hell of a lot less intimate than it actually fucking was. By the end of the whole story, he was back to fucking gaping at me, so I sat, picked at my nails a little bit, just waited for him to soak it in. So. He cleared his throat, got up and started walking around inspecting the pictures on the walls of the living room with his thumbs locked into his belt loops. Let me see if I understand this. He furrowed his brows, and cocked his head to the side. You and Bella Swan sleep together. I nodded. It was true. But you don't sleep together. I narrowed my eyes. That's why we keep our fucking mouths shut. Do you know, Jez, contrary to popular belief, it is possible to have a female in your bed without fucking her? I spat. Because I saw it coming. He eyed me skeptically, but eventually took it for what it was worth. Just fucking sleep. I never told him about the kiss. More reason to fuel the fire. Brandon, he trailed off, turning to face me, looking cautious. We'll fucking kill you. He said simply. Like it was a fact. And it probably was. Yep, no shit. I scoffed. That's why you're going to keep your fucking mouth shut too? I raised my eyebrows at him. I knew him better than to think he wouldn't, but I had to get the words out there anyways. He nodded at me and flopped back into the chair. We were silent a while. The whole house was, as a matter of fact. School was probably already out, but it was a practice day, and Dem wouldn't be home until Carlisle was. Can I meet her? Jez asked from the chair. I snapped my head up to meet his gaze. Absolutely fucking not. I said, as calmly as possible, narrowing my eyes. My girl was not some novelty to be fucking gaped at. He quirked an eyebrow. Why is that? He asked. Because you're a prick. I let out a deep sigh and slumped further into the couch, propping one of my boots on the coffee table in front of me. Because, I fucking told you, she doesn't like guys. Then after a pause. And because you're a prick. I smirked. Because he was. He knew it. He tried to look all fucking mock offended, but we both knew it was true. We were silent again for a while, before something pretty fucking important occurred to me. What happened with Brandon? I asked, genuinely curious. I was praying that they just went into the janitor closet and humped each other for an hour. Brandon didn't exactly strike me as the prude